Welcome to Face to Face. This is a show about change and what's next. It's a show that asks questions and peels back the layers of our average everyday experience and goes beyond scratching the surface. We interview people doing incredible things who are making a difference around the globe. Join me as we listen in and get one step closer to understanding that big ideas shared create collaboration. Collaboration can inspire community, and communities create social change. I'm David Peck, and this is Face to Face. So my next interview is about a film called Ladybuds. You can find out more about the film at ladybudsmovie.com. The interview is with three different women, I'm going to say very powerful women who have a marvelous story to tell. And this film follows a group of women, actually, who are, I'm going to call them small farmers. I'm going to call them entrepreneurs and activists. I hope that's okay, CJ. But what we have here today on the show on Face to Face, Chris Russo or CJ, Tia Rodriguez, and we have Sue Taylor as well, who you're going to want to lean in on her story just because of her past and what she came out of. She talks about herself being a goody two-shoes and winding up in the cannabis industry. This is a film about coming out of the shadows, as CJ says. It's about choice and about education. It's about being our authentic selves and about women who are the backbone of this industry. It's very focused on California and what's happening there and what's going to continue to happen there. But it's about policy and it's about grassroots activism and about sticking to it, actually. And a very fascinating thing about this thing being held over sort of from regulation, this recriminalization connected to compliance. And you're probably going to have to watch the film or at least listen to the interview to get a better sense on that. Counterculture, we touch on that, the war on drugs and what that actually means. We talk about elders' wisdom and about addressing elephants in the room. And Sue and CJ both talk about total health and how important it is, as Sue reminds us. We don't need to convince people. It's really about educating people. And so there's just so much passion in this interview and this podcast. I know you're going to enjoy it, and look for the film. It's playing at Hot Docs. If you're listening to this post May the 9th, make sure you check out the website for more information about the film and about those involved in the making of the film, ladiesmovie.com, and find out more about CJ's background as well and the work that she's been doing as a filmmaker and a writer and a producer. This was so much fun, not only to watch, but once again, one of those interviews that you just kind of wish could have gone on for much longer. So don't touch that dial and lean in on Ladybuds. And don't forget davidpecklive.com for more information about my writing and my public speaking. You can get a copy of Real Change is Incremental there. You can also sign up for our newsletter for Face to Face. I've moved everything now under one umbrella, so I no longer am in a few different places digitally online. davidpecklive.com. You can get there through the old face-to-face-live.ca address. But more importantly, like I said, please sign up on for the email newsletter. We only send out 6 a year. Share this with family and friends. Mediate us if you can. We would love for you to get us out on Instagram, share this interview, and please, this is a big ask, but honestly, it will take all of about 45 seconds. We even have a link on the website. Leave us a review on iTunes. We really, or Spotify, or however you're getting to this interview, we would really greatly appreciate it. A thumbs up and a subscription on YouTube too would be really welcome. But for now, stay tuned. Coming right up, Chris Russo, Tia Rodriguez, and Sue Taylor talking about their wonderful, fun, entertaining, and challenging new film, Ladybuds. Well, welcome to Face to Face. We're joined by three very special guests here with us today, and this is always a treat for me when I can. And it's a little weird on Zoom, but it's always a treat when I can actually have sort of a community-like conversation. So we have CJ, director of the new film Ladybuds, that's going to have its world premiere at Hot Docs here with us today. Sue Taylor and Tia Rodriguez is here as well to talk about this film, and I'm guessing a whole host of other things. So thank you all for joining me today.
So glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
Well, you're very welcome. And like I said, before we hit the button, I just want to say to my listeners, and to hopefully we're picking up some new ones, maybe with the subject matter. You never know. Wink, wink. I love this film. It's so much fun. It's it's about so many things, and I love movies that are layered and that seem to be about one thing, and then actually just are this beautiful reminder that there's so much more going on than meets the eye. CJ, can you give a bit of context for us? For me, this was a film about, education and big business. It's about pain management. It's about big pharma and relationships. It's about family. I don't even know where to start. So so many questions I have for you, but I'd love it if you could give us a bit of context for our listeners.
Sure. And that's such a compliment to hear that the film is about all those things for you, because cannabis is a very complex topic. And I wanted to tell the story from different points of view. And when I noticed that there were a lot of women in cannabis back in 2016, when cannabis was on the ballot in California for recreational to go legal, I was really intrigued. I started interviewing women up and down the state at different cannabis conventions and events. And what
It's so funny.
I know, it was farmers markets.
Yeah, that's right.
All in California, right? So I came to soon realize that women were the backbone of the industry. There were more women entrepreneurs in this space than I'd ever seen before. And I knew that there was something special here and very interesting, because, we tend to think from the media that this is a bro culture. And I really wanted to portray the story of legalization through the eyes of women in California. So after interviewing about 100 women, I decided, wow, these were the 6 women that were, everybody in cannabis is very interesting, by the way. But these women spoke to different.
How come that doesn't surprise me, CJ?
I mean, it's amazing, actually, the stories that we have in California, because these people have been cultivating the plant for decades. So it's pretty rich for storytelling. So I landed on following these 6 women, and they invited me to their farms, and I was invited into their homes. And it soon became I knew it was going to be a very personal story, right, even though it was about legalization. I think it's really important to break it down to an emotional human level with storytelling, which is why, it could change hearts and minds. So that was my approach. I was very committed to that. And so the framework of the film, because you could film a documentary for years, so we needed to come up with a framework, or else I would still be filming. So it was the 1 year leading up to legalization in California. It was legalized in 2016. So 2017 was actually leading up to when it was going to be turned on in 2018. So then it was 2000. So it was 1 year leading up to legalization, and then the year following in the lives of these women, to see how they transitioned from the underground market into the regulated market. And they had all been operating in some way or another in cannabis, whether they were an activist or working in the dispensary, talking about wellness with elders or farmers. I wanted to bring all these different kinds of points of view of cannabis to the story. And really, this is a California story of legalization.
What I love about, even though it's so rooted in this, I suppose a few communities, but a fairly small amount of geography really that you cover when you think of, global implications. But I think what I love about your story is there's so many universal truths that come out of this. That it's really not a film about cannabis. You know what I mean? Like, which is so interesting, right? From even from your establishing shots, which are so wonderful, by the way, with all the bags. And I just thought I was watching an episode of Narcos there for a second. I wasn't sure what was going on. It's it was really. I
wanted to turn it on its head, because we're always these guys and these gangsters and the cartels, and it really is about women too, and it's about women businesswomen and women who have been the medicine makers and the healers and the cultivators. And, like you're saying, the universal truths, it's about having the courage to take risks, to go for your dreams, knowing that it's risky, it's about coming out of the shadows and wanting to be your authentic self out in the open. Yeah. So for me, as a queer filmmaker, I found it fascinating that they kept using the term coming out of the shadows. So it was kind of a no-brainer and very intriguing for me to come upon a community that I could actually relate to, wanting to be out in the open with doing something that they love to do and just being themselves.
You can really see the passion there. I mean, again, farmers, so many lessons to learn here for not only the small farmer, but I would imagine just the family farmer as well. Sue, I think it's CJ, you sort of end the film with a radio host that calls herself Mom, I believe, yeah. And the message is stay focused. And Sue, I think you're talking about, what is it? Stay positive. Stay on message. And you've been at this a long time. I've got so many questions for you, especially your goody two shoes comment early on in the film. I want to explore that a little bit. What happened? Anyway, tell me about that stick, as my dad would say, that stick-to-itiveness. I mean, you have been so committed to this for so many years. Where does that come from? Where does that passionate sort of commitment come out of? Can you talk about that a wee bit?
Yes. And your name is David, correct?
It is, yes.
Hey, David. Well, as I've stated before, if someone had told me I'd be working in the cannabis industry 12 years, you've been smoking too much, right? You've been smoking too much. I didn't choose it. I didn't choose this path. I didn't choose the path of being the trusted face of medical cannabis. I didn't choose the path of being an advocate for seniors or for anyone in the cannabis industry. It chose me. It chose me. And how I know it chose me, David, is because how I feel inside when I'm doing the work. People have asked me, you've been on this mission to getting a legal cannabis dispensary for 12 years. What made you stick to it that long? That most people, I would have quit. Most people would have quit. Never dawned on me to quit. You know why? Because it comes from the heart. It came from here. It came from within, not from out there. Now, initially, the universe knew I wouldn't have nothing to do with cannabis. Nothing to do with cannabis. I didn't grow up with it. It was illegal. Don't bring it into our house. But when my son said he wanted to go into the industry, I said, I'm not going to lose him to drugs in all these years. I'm not going to lose him now. So it changed my mind. It changed my mind. The work, I'm trying to save him. It was me. It was me who needed the enlightenment, not him.
So good.
So it just, one thing after the other. The more I got involved in it, the more I learned about cannabis. And so it's become my passion and love to pass that knowledge from being a person who says, don't bring that into, no, you're a loser if you're messing with drugs, to becoming an advocate, And every woman in that film, David, they operate from the heart.
It's good, yeah.
Then without. You seek within, then you pass it out. And that's what this plant does. And Chris has captured that because she went into our lives, that we are human beings. I'm a person of color. I'm a woman, and I'm an elder. You see, and I'm thriving well. And the cannabis has taught me.
I so love, Sue, thank you. That's so great. I love your generosity and your grace. This film, CJ, for me was about education as well. I mean, talk about, I've studied philosophy all my life, and it's every time I pick up a new book, I just go, wow, I wish I had more time. Like there's no uninteresting subject, right? And so, Sue, I think it seems all of you, I think it's about peeling back layers for others, for policymakers, for school teachers, for parents, for religious faith-based communities to say, hang on a minute here, there's something else going on, and it's time to look at this medicine in a different way. The connotation of drug and turning it, CJ, your comment about turning it on its head is so well taken. The brown paper bag at the beginning is hilarious, by the way. I love the cash coming out of the brown paper bag. Chia, hey, can you talk a little bit about that passion that Sue is talking about as well? I mean, is that it seems to me you've got a pretty deep commitment to this industry and to where you've been and I suppose where you're heading. And again, so many questions for you too. We're just so not going to have enough time.
Well, thanks, David. Well, I am a daughter of the industry. Really, my father was a cultivator. Both my husband and I are second generation cultivators. We've been doing this work at our own farm for quite a long time. We're going into our 23rd cultivation season. And so, really, no matter what I do, I'll never be able to get away from this plant. It is just part of my life. It's part of my destiny. So
you're what they call, you're what they refer to in the film as an OG, I believe. I've never heard that expression before. I learned a ton in this film, by the way, CJ, but that was hilarious. I thought, OG. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you.
Well, I don't consider myself really an OG because I think my parents' generation are really the OGs. Those are the people that that you ask advice from. Those are the people you learn from. Right. Those are the people that gave us the plants that started our whole farm, and so we have to pay homage to that legacy and heritage that we're perpetuating. I mean, really, that's what we're doing is we're keeping the culture alive, and it's a challenge these days to do that. It's been proven to be quite an interesting industry. So.
I bet. I mean, CJ, your comment about the storytelling and the richness of it all is it's revealing and fascinating. I think it's a comment for all of us just to look a little closer, and to pay attention to the stories around us. It really is. Who would have thought that you could have made a feature-length doc about cannabis? But wow, it's right. Just and with such focus too. It's CJ, did you see this film when you started out? Did you see it as having all these layers? I mean, this commentary on racism, on sexism, on all these things. It's really quite remarkable the places you go.
Thank you so much. It's inherently layered, cannabis. I mean, because of the fraught history of our country and the war on drugs, to wellness, to the laws, to it being legally a Schedule I drug in the United States. Like, it's not really legal, it's just regulated.
Right.
And so now it's become a commodity. And, I identify with counterculture. I've had a relationship with cannabis since high school. I was really taken by the communities up north, the Back to the Landers, who are stewards of the land, who just wanted to live off the grid, and they discovered cannabis as a means to afford their lifestyle. And then the small towns up north were just putting their, the money back into the community. So, from the economy to the compassion element to, the history of racism around, cannabis and incarceration.
Incarceration, yep.
Yeah, it's very layered. So, my film is, scratches the surface. Everybody in cannabis deserves their own feature film, and there's so much education that can be conveyed about cannabis. So I'm hopeful that whoever watches the film gets some inspiration, gets a little education, understands the history and the heritage of California. And now as it's rolling out across the country with I think we're up to 36 states that have legalized the plant in some fashion, whether it's medical or recreational. It's a sea change. The time is now. So, and the story's not over.
Yeah, it seems like it's just starting.
Yeah, and in a way, this is a cautionary tale to perhaps other states and policymakers on how to do things differently. California is over-regulating. This is probably the the only crop in history that's this heavily regulated in the country, in the United States. And, you know, they were created to ultimately not support the operators that had been in doing this. The cultivators have been doing this for years, and it opened the doors to big business and people commoditizing the plant. And you know,
well, CJ, and for anyone to answer too, but doesn't someone, and I can't remember who it is in the film, but talks about how this form of, as you say, overregulation almost becomes a different kind of policing. It's a free market like war on drugs, if you will.
Oh, I think
we are more afraid of the BCC and CDFA, which are the regulating agencies here in California, than we were of helicopters. You know, they can come do an inspection with zero notice at any time, which is not necessarily a problem. It's just, it's nerve-wracking. There's so many little things to keep track of constantly, from the paperwork to the track and trace to, you know, so many factors that it has become the fear instead of, you know, the previous fears during the war on drugs and the Reagan era of helicopters and all that.
Right. I think this question's for any of you, but Chia and Sue, the regulation, the paperwork, the licensing, the things, Sue, that you had to put up with to get to where you were. I love the shot of I'm so glad, CJ, you got the shot of the dispensary before anything had happened. This
amazing, right?
Sort of shell of a building, I guess, and not even a shell of a building, just a shell. But it's a great image for us to see, you know, what are some of the challenges and some of the hurdles. Or are these rules and regulations, do you think, intentional to keep the small farmer out? Or is it just that ridiculous Orwellian, like, you know, red tape that just seems to get wrapped up all over the place? I mean, California clearly has a complicated history. Fraud is such a great word, CJ. So yeah, is it by design?
I mean, Chi can speak to this a little bit. From my perspective, I feel like there's this holdover from the punitive side of thinking, like
right.
The farmers that, you know, pre-legalization are perceived as criminals in a way, and now
Stigma,
moving over to the other side, so that, you know, to Chia's point, the helicopters are there for a different reason. Now they just fine them tens of thousands of dollars, and it's hard for a small farmer to afford any bills like that. And so, to Chia's point, she can speak a little bit more. Like, the regulators are just, you know, by default, favoring companies that can afford to throw money at problems that come across. And there is discrimination. I think there's even a line in the film saying legalization is the recriminalization of
That's
cannabis.
right. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
So I don't know. Let's Chia. I'm sure, because she grew up in Mendocino, she's seen it all.
Yeah, you know, I feel like, recriminalization, that's a really good word for it. It's like, I feel like the regulating agencies feel like they're regulating criminals, you know, and bringing them forward. You know, we get treated like that. We have to stand in line just to go pay my county taxes. You walk into a building and there's a sign with a cannabis leaf with an arrow. So you're basically advertising to everybody else in the room that you have a pocket full of cash that you're coming in to pay your taxes with.
Right.
It doesn't feel very safe. We're still definitely discriminated against.
Yeah, it sounds, that's kind of troubling in a way, right? It's like, does the spotlight come on as you step up and into the queue? Recriminalization. So I never thought of that. There would be a day when we'd be talking about big cannabis, in a sense, but isn't that what is? I don't know if any of you can talk about that, but I know a few farmers who live not too far from me. The challenges that farming presents, never mind all the administration, right? Just getting the soil and just supply chain and the weather and so many factors that must affect families that ultimately are going to affect people like Sue at the dispensary level. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. I mean, Chia, you've been around for many, many years doing this. Are those fair observations?
Yes, for sure. I mean, in farming, we used to be outside all day long, and now I have to be behind a computer for a good portion of every day. Whether it just be track and trace, which is a constant, you have a plant die, or you decide that you don't want to keep that male around, or whatever the case might be, you have to constantly be doing that work to make sure that you're always in compliance. And so, aside from the pest pressures, especially here in California, as the summer gets hotter and hotter and fire season is definitely a big problem, the stressors in other ways are huge. Just kind of trying to protect ourselves from wildfires, just, for now, more than half of the year is a huge piece of the puzzle as well. And so, yeah, farming is not for the faint of heart. You got to be really on your game. You're always looking at things under the microscope. You got to walk the farm multiple times a day to make sure that you're keeping track of every little detail.
Well, Sue's comment earlier about it coming from the inside, that passion, it's got to be in your blood. On a variety of levels, it seems to me,
really is. Yeah, it really is. Well, my husband is really he's the magic maker on the farm. He's done so much of the breeding in the past. It's sometimes things happen by accident, and you find these, amazing little unicorns there. But really, he has the passion of the breeding and has that long-term vision of what he's looking for in the product and the strains and stuff. And I've been kind of like keeping the beauty alive on the farm and planting lots of flowers and herbs and doing all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, we make a good team.
Yeah, I bet. It just struck me as you were saying, planting herbs on the farm. I just never thought I'd see this day where I'd be having such a measured, thoughtful conversation about weed. It's fantastic. I mean, where we've come from and where we're heading to. Sue, can you tell us a little bit about, as you educate, as you talk to others about the medicinal properties of cannabis and so on, what are some of them? What are some of the challenges or the critics? What are the critics saying to you? I saw that shot of you kind of giving a PowerPoint presentation on the benefits of cannabis, I think, in the film. And do you get cornered, ever? Is somebody saying, what are you doing in the cannabis industry? You should know better.
Oh boy. Dave, you just brought to mind, it doesn't happen very often. But this one I'll never forget. I was invited to speak at some organization. I kind of forgot where it was. And I was going to talk about, of course, seniors in medical cannabis. And when I got done, it was one of the Commission on Aging. I'm a Commission on Aging for the county, right? And that guy was this older guy. He was on the commission as well, so he knew me. And so when I finished, he stood up in front of everybody and said, "How dare you? And you are supposed to be a metaphysical minister talking about drugs? How dare you? You're going straight to the devil." I said, "Oh my God." That's what he said to me. And thank God, the person who invited me challenged him and put him in his place and apologized to me so I could go on, but it that was the one thing I'll never forget. But it's been challenging for me in the beginning because I too had those same thoughts. I too had that stigma.
Right,
see,
of course.
That's why I've been so successful in this space of educating, is because I was once there.
So good.
I was once there. So when I'm doing presentations, I automatically address the elephant in the room. I don't wait for it to come to me. I talk, and David, this is what I do. I don't try to convince anybody of anything. I just educate for those who are ready, who have the consciousness, who is ready to listen. I say, first off, if what you're doing is working, you don't need to hear anything I have to say. But if what you're doing, if you're feeling great about being where you are and who you are at this stage of the game, don't change a thing. But if you were on 2 medications that have now graduated to 15 or 20, you want to listen. If you want to know about alternative medicines, such as cannabis, acupuncture, meditation, yoga, total health and well-being, please listen. I educate, I don't convince. And one thing that has also made me very successful at it, David, is because I genuinely care about humankind. I don't have to know you. I don't have to know you. As they say, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You see?
It's so good, Sue. Yeah,
it comes to, I remind people of who they are. I remind people what they have forgotten. The perfect human being that is their birthright. You see, it's not just about the cannabis. It's not just about the acupuncture or whatever. It's about developing a whole human being, the person you came here to be. Cannabis can help that. If you can get them out of the fog of all these drugs that we are actually on, then you become clear-minded from within first, then without. You develop here.
So it's great advice for us all. Educate, don't convince. I mean, right? Plant, again, sort of coming full circle, plant those seeds, let them do the work that I don't know, you're the metaphysical minister, the cosmos was intended to do, right? It's that's a beautiful way to look at it. I love that a film about cannabis is we're kind of coming to the end talking about total health of our country. I mean, that really is a beautiful thing. CJ, I would love, sadly, we're going to have to wrap up in a second here. What do you learn as a filmmaker? I mean, you must have, and I bet you've got some new friendships as a result of this film as well. I mean, I love the relational thread that comes out in this film. The intimacy of it all is really quite lovely. Could you tell us a little bit about, and maybe that's a nice dovetail into what's next for you as well.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I mean, it's been, I've been so appreciative to be welcomed into the community. I feel a part of it now and into the lives of these women, and to really understand what drives them. You know, it was a challenging film to follow all these women at once, but
a lot of stories.
But I was really committed to, giving them voice in a space where, again, you don't normally see women, and also really shine the light even bigger on the whole big business versus little business thing to me, and it hits home to support local farmers, local businesses, women-owned businesses. I am developing a few new docuseries and projects around the stories of the film that have been so inspiring to me. I'm always going to be very committed to telling women's stories. I'm very committed to telling LGBTQ stories. And we'll see. It's an exciting moment to be promoting the film and having people see it after all these years. So,
well, each one of these women could be their own docuseries, it seems to me.
Absolutely.
Rich material. Hey, last question. You're going to have an impact. You've already had an impact without a doubt. But is there any kind of campaign that you're thinking about, Sue? You're thinking about more education, or are you just going to let the film do its work?
Well, with the film, we're working on a social impact campaign. Given the pandemic, it's thrown a wrench into
yeah.
the plans. We were looking forward to traveling with the film and having panels and bringing
Right.
these amazing women around the country, potentially around the world, to have those conversations around cannabis about fixing the harms from the war on drugs, or policy making, and
Yeah, absolutely.
or women entrepreneurship. So still working on the social impact campaign in terms of what the film is doing, and then I'll let the women speak to what their ideas are from here.
Yeah. For me, doing this film is a launching thing for me, because number one, I do plan to promote on a larger level about the wholeness of the body,
Sure.
mind, and spirit. Using my products, I've developed a brand with the company. I know we talk about, I've partnered with a company, a big company, and what's important about that is called the Glass House Group. They are in line with my vision of where I want to go with it, with the Mama Sue products. I want Mama Sue to become a household name. The Glass House Group and Mama Sue products, a household name of health and wellness, not just to being about just the cannabis, not being about just one thing, but all of it, body, mind, and spirit. And if anybody is going to save this world, it's going to be the energy of young people and the wisdom of the elders, making better families, better communities, better governments, resulting in a better world. That's my vision.
It's a pretty good vision, Sue.
That's my launch. That's my launch.
It's so amazing.
Going back to who they are.
Yeah, it's so good. I love that, the youthful energy with the elderly wisdom. It's that's got to be a log line, CJ, for something.
Yes, that's a great idea.
Yeah, Gia, how about?
It feels like.
Gia, can you talk at all about? I mean, you're clearly having an impact from what I can tell, and the work that you guys are doing. But do you see any sort of social impact implications for you in the near future?
Well, definitely, this film has brought light to small farmers like myself and the group of farmers that I help and organize. And what I guess my goal would be is that people really recognize and honor the legacy that has been built, and that small farmers really do hold up the communities. And it's really important, it's very vital that we purchase products from small farmers and
Sure.
give them the support that they deserve.
Yeah, pay fair wages. Again, CJ, I just love all the things you touch on in this film, man. Seriously, it's just this should be viewing in international development courses, economic courses. I mean, seriously, like there's so many layers here. It's I'd like to see the workbook on Ladybuds. That's what I want to see. The course curriculum that's going to be developed. Yeah.
Wow. That's a real compliment. Thank you so much for having us, David.
Yeah, what a pleasure having you here today. We've been talking with Chris, CJ Russo, Chia Rodriguez, and Sue Taylor about their wonderful, fun, and engaging new film, Ladybuds. World premiere at Hot Docs. Get your tickets now. You heard it here on Face to Face.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.